President, please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber will hear the testimony of a witness to TCW 880, and we also have a reserve witness today, that is to TCW 883. Ms. Sakabuti, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals at today's proceedings. Graphier. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nunchi is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in a courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. A witness who is to testify today, namely to TCW 880, confirms that, to the best of his knowledge, he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is Nunchi and Kieu Sampon, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness took an oath before the Iron Club statue this morning. And we also have a reserve witness today, that is to TCW 883, who will testify before his appearance. President, thank you, Ms. Sakabuti. The Chamber now decides on the request by Noon Chie. The Chamber has received a waiver from Noon Chie, dated 14 September 2015, which notes that due to his health, headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to participate in and be present at the 14 September 2015 hearing. He affirms that his counsel has advised him about the consequences of this waiver, that it cannot in any account be construed as a waiver of his rights to be tried fairly or to challenge evidence presented to or admitted by this court at any time during this trial. Having seen the medical report of Nunchi by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 14 September 2015, which notes that Nunchi has back pain and dizziness when he sits, and recommends that the chamber grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nunchi his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via audio-visual means. And the chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that he can follow the proceedings. This applies to the whole day. Court officer, please usher witness to TCW 880 into the courtroom. President. Good morning, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Witness, my name is Sain Srun. President, thank you. And when were you born, Mr. Sain Srun? And Mr. Sain Srun, please observe the microphone. You can only speak when the red light is lit on. Answer, I was born in January 1949. President, and where were you born? Answer, I was born in Sambomih Ko village, Pim Chikong, Kong Mih, Kampong Cham. Question, and where is your current address? Answer, currently I'm still living in Sambomih Ko village, Pim Chikong, Kong Mih, Kampong Cham province. Question, and what is your current occupation? Answer, I am a rice farmer. President, thank you. And what are the names of your parents? Answer, my father is Mao Hu and my mother is Hui Sim. President, thank you. And what is the name of your wife and how many children do you have? Answer, my wife's name is Sam Trun and we have 7 children together. President, thank you, Mr. Sainstrund. The greffier made an oral report that to the best of your knowledge, none of that you are not related to any other two accused, Nunchi or Kieu Sampon, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. Is this information correct? Answer, yes, that is correct. Question, have you taken an oath before the Iron Crab statue? Answer, yes, I have. And the Chamber now wishes to inform you of your rights and obligations. As a witness before the Chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question that may incriminate you, that is right against self-incrimination. And following is your obligations. As a witness in the proceedings before the Chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the Chamber has just informed you of your right as a witness. And you must tell the truth that you have known, seen, remember, or that you experience or observe directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. And Mr. Sainstrun, have you been interviewed by investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges? If so, how many times, when, and where? Answer, I have been interviewed for about 5 times, and that happened at my residence in my village. Question, and do you recall when those interviews took place? Answer, the first one was likely in 2008. Question, And when was your last interview taken place? Answer. It happened in around 2012 or 2013. President, thank you. And before your appearance this morning, have you reviewed or read the written records of your statements? And that you just said during the 5 interviews that the first one happened in around 2008 and the last one took place in around 2012 or 2013 in order to refresh your memory? Answer. I have read some of those documents. Question. And to your best recollection, can you inform the court whether the written records of your statements are consistent with what you said during those interviews that took place at your village? Answer. After I read those documents, I confirmed that those were the statements that I made before those investigators. President, thank you. And pursuant to Rule 91B of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber grants the floor first to the co-prosecutors to put questions to this witness. And the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers is 2 sessions, and you may proceed now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Singh Sroon. I don't know if you remember me. I was one of the OCP, part of the OCP team that interviewed you back in 2008. Thank you for coming here today. I wanted to start with a few questions about your background. In your first OCIJ interview, you talk about fleeing to the Maquis to join the revolution in 1971 and being appointed a platoon commander in Battalion 305, where you were in charge of 36 men, and you describe participating in combat in various locations, including Kampong, Persat, and Phnom Penh. I just wanted to ask you what army, what zone or sector or district was Battalion 305 part of?
Answer. The Battalion 305 that I was attached to was part of Zone 304, that is the northern zone, and it was in Sector 30.
During the 1970 period, early 1970s, you've indicated that your sector was called Sector 30. Do you remember whether the sector number changed after 1975?
In 1975, the sector number remained the same.
And in the same interview, you described being in the Battalion 305, part of the North Zone Army, until April 1975, when you were assigned to work in Svai Teep Chamkar-Lu district. And then you say that in early 1976, you received a letter directing you to return to your home village, Sambo Mia village, in Pim Chikong commune, Kang Mia district. Can you tell us what happened to you when you arrived back in Sambo Mia village in early 1976?
In 1976, after my unit was dissolved, I was sent to return to my village, and I was placed in a mobile unit to work at various plantations and at various work sites.
Were you arrested for a period when you first went back to your home village?
After I returned to my village and before I was placed into a mobile unit, I was detained for a period of 10 days.
Do you know why you were detained for 10 days when you went back to your home village?
They did not give me any reason or mistakes that I made when they arrested me. The militia came to arrest me, and I did not know anything at all or the reason for my arrest.
Can you identify who was in charge of the militia in Pim Chikam commune, in charge of the militia who arrested you?
Amongst those who came to arrest me, there was Nam, who was in charge of security. I only know him by his revolutionary name Nam. And there was also another chief of security of the PMT Kong commune by the name of Samrit.
After you were released, after your 10 days of detention in 1976, where did you live and what were you assigned to do?
After I was released, and that took place in 1976, I was arranged to marry a woman. Then I was assigned to work in a mobile unit to work at various work sites.
And the mobile unit you were assigned to, was this a commune unit, a district unit, or a sector unit? Can you clarify that for us?
The unit that I was attached to was a sector's mobile unit.
And who was your unit chief?
Tu Noi was my unit chief.
In your interviews, you also identify a person named Hun, who you describe as a unit chief. Can you describe the difference in the positions of Nui and Hun?
In fact, it was Horn, not Hun. Noi was in charge of a mobile unit at the work site, at a particular work site, as Horn. Horn was in charge of security of Kong Mi district. And he usually based at a pagoda called Moni Sarawan.
You'll have to forgive my pronunciation. I was trying to ask you about a different person. This person you've identified as a unit chief in your village, Sambo Mia A village, and the name seems to be Hun, not Hon, but Hun. Do you remember a person who was a unit chief in charge of Sambo Mia village?
It was Hun who was a unit chief at the village, and Hun passed away. In fact, he just passed away, and his 7-day anniversary is today.
Thank you for clarifying that. I want to turn now to some questions about the Cham people in your commune, the Pim Chikong commune. At the time you left to join the military in the early 1970s, were there any Cham in your commune, and if so, in what villages?
In 1970, there were many Cham people living in Pim Chikong commune, and I knew some of them through my contacts, through farming, etc. But I did not know many of them. I know some like Man and him, as they were my neighbors, and they also worked in the rice field.
What were the biggest Cham villages in your commune back at that time?
And it was Sakso village where many Cham people resided, and Tung So was another village with many Cham people living.
Do you remember back then approximately how many Cham families they were, or how many Cham people there were in Sakso village?
I do not know the total number of the Cham people living in Sakso. However, from what I could observe, there were approximately 1,000 Cham people living in Sakso.
Was Kong Mia district located on the Mekong River And were the Cham villages you've identified, were they located on or close to the Mekong?
The majority of the Cham people lived along the Mekong River, as their business was mainly fishing. 80% of them fished, while 20 worked in the rice field or plantation.
Was there a mosque in Sakso village?
In Satso village, there was a mosque, and there was also another mosque in Antong So.
Now I want to move to the period when you returned to your commune in early 1976. When you came back in 1976, were all the Cham families still in Sakso village at that time?
In 1976, the Cham people were sent to live mixed with the Cambodian, with the Khmer people in various villages. They were segregated to live amongst the Khmer people.
And apart from the people who had been moved to live among Khmer, were there any Cham families that were still allowed to stay in Sakso village at that time?
In Satso village, Cham people were sent to live there, while they were spread out to live in various villages within the commune.
And when the Cham people were spread out among the commune or district, were there any Cham families who were sent to your village, Sambo Mia A village?
Answer. Cham people in Sombomir A were from Sakso. Perhaps 20 families of Cham people were from Sakso.
Were you ever told why the Cham families had been moved out of Sakso village and spread around different areas in your commune and district?
Answer. I do not know the reason Cham people were segregated.
And when you came back to Pim Chikong in early 1976, were the Cham people in the commune still allowed to practice their religion, to speak the Cham language, to dress in traditional Cham clothes?
Answer. In 1976, Cham people were prohibited from practicing their religion, and as for their clothes, they were not allowed to wear traditional clothes for Cham people. they were required to wear the same clothes as Khmer people.
Mr. Witness, do you know whether there were any rebellions or protests of the Cham people, by the Cham people in Kang Mia district during the Khmer Rouge regime?
Answer. In Khmer district, generally speaking, there were no activities against Khmer Rouge, and they did not protest against Khmer Rouge because some of them were afraid of Khmer Rouge at the time.
What happened to the mosques in Sakso village and Antang Sol village in 1976 when the Cham people were no longer allowed to practice their religion?
Answer. Regarding mosques, those mosques were turned to be shelters for Khmer people and Cham people to live in. Cham mosques were turned into warehouse for storing food supplies and rice. Cham people were not allowed to enter the mosque. The compound of the mosque were turned into shelters.
Thank you. I want to turn now to some general questions about a pagoda in your commune named Wat O Trakun. When you returned to Pim Chikong in 1976, did you live close to Wat O Trakun?
Answer. In 1976, I was living close to Otakun Pagoda. The distance from my house to Otakun Pagoda was about 200 meters away.
Was your house on the road that went to Wat O Trakun?
Answer. My house was located on the road. It was about 70 meters away from the road. I mean, my house.
When you first got back to Pim Chikong in early 1976, were there still monks at Wat O Trakun at that time?
Answer. After my return in 1976, monks were disrobed.
And what was Wat O Trakun used for after the monks were disrobed?
What of the code?
Answer. After monks had been disrobed, the pagoda was turned into a security center to detain people.
You have stated that your house, the house you lived in, was near the road that went to Wat Trakun and about 200 meters from the pagoda. Did you ever see prisoners being taken to the pagoda compound? And if so, how often did you see people being taken to Wat Ochakun?
នៅ
Answer. I saw the transportation of people into the pagoda on a daily basis. Most people were transported inside the compound of the pagoda, but not from the compound of the pagoda to elsewhere.
During the Khmer Rouge period, were there any walls that surrounded the Wat Ochakun compound?
Answer. During Khmer Rouge time, after Khmer Rouge created the security center within the compound of the pagoda, the barbed wire fence was installed to cover the prison, but before that there was no wall or any barbed wire fence.
And this barbed wire fence, was it something that you could see through from the outside, or was it a solid fence that kept you from seeing the inside of the compound?
Answer. At the beginning, when the security center was created, people could walk close to the barbed wire fence. Later on, in 1977, we were not allowed to walk past the gate of the pagoda. Before that time, we could see prisoners inside the pagoda.
And from your house, that was 200 meters from Wat Ochakun, were you able to hear sounds coming from the pagoda at nighttime?
Answer. When the people were taken to be killed, the music were played from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m., during which people were killed. No screaming, no crying were heard from the compound of the pagoda because of the loud music played through the loudspeakers.
Could you hear the music from your house?
Answer. Yes. The people living close to the road could hear the music being played. We could not hear the screaming or crying, but the loud music.
And when you say that music was played on these loudspeakers, what kind of music? Can you tell us what you remember about what was played on the loudspeakers?
Answer. It was music from Pol Pot time, and the music was composed by Pol Pot regime. I could not tell you the content of the music. The newly composed music by Pol Pot era.
And how did you know that? You said a few minutes ago that they played music on the loudspeakers when they were executing people. How did you know that?
Answer. During the time the music was being played and people were killed, I was assigned to climb the sugar palm tree. Security guards were also assigned to climb sugar palm trees. So I had contact and conversation with the security guard Muon, who was the security guard and had the work assignment as me, told me that whenever the music was being played, it was the time that prisoners were taken away and killed. The music was played to prevent all of us from hearing the screaming and crying. Let me tell you that the music was not played on a daily basis. Sometimes it was played on the one particular event, and Muon, who was the climber of the sugar palm tree, told me about that incident.
Let me ask you a little bit about your work as a palm tree climber. You lived close to Wat Ochakun. When you worked as a palm tree climber from 1976 to 1978, did you also work close to Wat Ochakun?
បាទ
Answer. Yes. I was a climber close to the complex of the Otokun Pagoda.
How far were the palm trees where you worked from Wat Ochakun?
Answer. The palm trees were located about 20 meters away from the fence of that pagoda.
I want to turn now to some questions about the arrival of cadres from the southwest zone in your area. Can you describe for the court what you remember about the arrival of the southwest cadres and specifically what happened to the north zone cadres at that time?
បាទការ
Answer. Most chief of security were from 304. However, later on, the southwest zone cadres came to replace the previous cadres. Kun, who was the chief of security center at Otokun Pagoda, was replaced by southwest zone cadres. Before the arrival of southwest zone cadres, the cadres from the north zone were in charge of Otokun Security Center. A few months later, southwest zone cadres were sent to replace north zone cadres. Kun was still in the position of a security center at that time, and later on I heard that Kun was reassigned to upper level office, and the southwest Southwest Zone cadres who came to replace Kund told me that Kund had been sent to District Security Center to be killed. But at that time, we were not told that Kund was sent away to be killed, but that Kund had been promoted to the upper level. Most of the cadres in senior position during that time were killed, and the Southwest Zone cadres were sent to replace those North Zone cadres. So the old chief of security center at Otragun was arrested and sent away.
And what about the North Zone cadres who were at the commune and district level in your area? What happened to them when the Southwest Zone people arrived?
Answer. After their arrival in 304 zone, chief of Sangkat and militia had all been arrested and killed. These people had a previous position in the district and communes. They had all been arrested and killed.
I want to read to you one excerpt from your OCIJ interview E3/8736, E3/8736, and this is from answers 2 through answer 4. You testified, quote, "When the Southwest zoners arrived, the North zoners were arrested on the allegation that they betrayed with Khoi Tun. Question: how was the situation of those arrested after that? Answer: they all died. They were killed, especially those who were linked with the network of Tuch and Sreng. Question: did you witness the killing or did you just hear about it? Answer: for the upper levels, I did not know, but for the local levels, such as commune levels, who were accused of being the network of Khoi Tun, they were killed at Wat Ochakun Pagoda. It was Tak Khan, the new Southwest Zoner, who ordered the killing." End of quote. My first question for clarification here, who was it that told you that the North Zone cadres were accused of being part of the network of former Zone Secretary Khoi Tun?
Answer. On that matter, I did not follow close the situation. Comrade Kain, who was chief of Sangkat, together with Comrade E, who was also the Sangkat chief, were arrested together with Nam. Comrade Kain, who was also chief of Sangkat, was also arrested. As I told you earlier, at the beginning, people were allowed to walk past the old Raguna Pagoda. At one time, when I walked past the pagoda, I understood that Comrade Kain was killed within the classroom of the pagoda. His legs were tied up. He was tied upside down.
Can you identify for the court the new cadres from the Southwest who came and took over as Pim Chikong Commune Chief, Kong Mia District Secretary, and Sector Secretary? Can you identify who took over those positions when the Southwest cadres arrived?
Answer. I would like to tell the chamber that during the times that the previous cadres were all arrested, the Southwest cadres came to take control. Comrade An, I do not know his surname, was the chief of 30 sector, and within Kong Mia district, Gan had overall supervision of Kong Mia, and his wife's name was Piep, who was the deputy. And as for the new chief for Sangkat, there was an individual came. All of them came to replace the previous cadre who had been arrested and sent away.
When was it that the Southwest cadres arrived and the old North Zone cadres were arrested and taken away?
Answer. North Zone cadres were arrested in perhaps 1976 or 1977. To my recollection, they were arrested in 1976, if I'm not mistaken. Some of them were arrested in 1976, and all of these cadres were arrested in 1977.
Mr. President, with your leave, I'd like to provide at this time two S-21 records to the witness to have him identify some people, but also to refresh his recollection on the timing of the arrests of the cadres from his region. These two documents are E3 2956, E3/2956, and E3 3861. E3 3861. I'll wait for council's objection at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Yes, I object to this question. I also know what the decision is going to be, but for the record, I object. This witness has nothing intelligent to say about S-21 records. If he wants to have certain names identified, the prosecution could mention these names. This witness didn't work for S-21, didn't work in the security section of Sector 30 or Sector 41. So I object to these lines of questions.
If I may respond, Mr. President, the purpose, and this is something we've done before, is first to help establish the actual timing when these arrests occurred, and second, we've provided the documents to the witnesses because sometimes it is easier to recognize the names when they can look at them rather than hear them from my mouth.
បាទជំរាបសម្រាប់បដិសេធ
President, the objection by Victor Kope, the defense counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea, to the the request to present two documents is overruled since the reasons raised by co-prosecutor are reasonable. The presentation will not present the whole content of the documents, but just to quote some of the information inside. So you may now proceed, co-prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, you've been handed two documents. If you could start with the first document, which is E3 2956. This is a S-21 prisoner list titled List of Persons from the North Zone, 1 February 1977 to 27 March 1977, which identifies 84 North Zone cadres who were arrested and sent to S-21 between mid-February and the end of March 1977. If you could look at the first name on that list, Mr. Witness, number 1 is Chor Chun alias Sreng from the Zone Standing Committee, who is recorded as having entered S-21 on 18 February 1977. Do you remember Sreng?
I do not know the real name. However, Sreng that I know was chief of a zone, and that after the arrest of Kai Pok and Koi Thun, he came to be in charge of the zonal position. And as I said, I do not know the full name of this individual.
If you could look now at the second list, the second document, which is E3 3861, and if you could look at number 103 on that list. Number 103. This is a list of a S-21 document titled List of Prisoners Smashed on 8 July 1977 from the North Zone, which identifies 173 prisoners from the North Zone who were killed at S-21 that day. And number 103 on the list, which I've highlighted, is Chun Chum alias Tang, a secretary of Sector 41 of the North Zone, who is recorded as having entered S-21 on the 18th of February 1977, the same date as Sreng. Tang also appears as number 56 on the other list, E3 2956. My question for you, do you remember a leader from your region named Tang?
It was not Tang, but Tang. He was called Tatang, and I know this person clearly. He was a former Kongmi district chief. It was Tang, not Tang. However, I do not know his full name or his birth name. He was a former Kongmi district chief, and later on he was transferred to Sector 41.
Mr. Witness, do these records refresh your memory that it was early 1977, possibly February 1977, rather than 1976, when the Southwest cadres arrived and the North Zone cadres were arrested.
Whether the event took place in 76 or 77, it is very difficult to pinpoint the exact date, as we do not have any calendar to refer to, and it's possible that it happened in late 76 or early 77, but I cannot give you an exact date or month, as we did not have a calendar to refer to at the time.
Fair enough. Before you put away the lists, while you're looking again at E3 3861, E3 3861, if you could look at number 35 on that list. Number 35 is Chun Ol alias Mia, Secretary of Kong Mia District, who had entered S21 on 26 February 1977. Again, that's number 35, Chun Ol alias Mia. Do you remember a man named Mia who served as Kong Mia District Secretary?
Yes, I know Mia, but I do not know Chun Ol. That's the birth name. And as I said, during the Khmer Rouge regime, usually we only know first name of persons. Later on, during the period, he was appointed to be in charge of military of the Kong Mia district.
Thank you for looking at those documents. I want to turn now to a question. After the arrival of the Southwest cadres, do you remember being called to attend a meeting at which the new sector secretary gave a speech?
The new district secretary did not call people to meetings. However, I recall Anne, who was in charge of the sector, actually convened a meeting, and people were called to go to Wat Otrokun. Khan was there, but he did not take a stand, and it was Anne who spoke during that meeting.
Did An say anything at that meeting about the old North Zone cadres and why they had been arrested?
He spoke at length during the meeting. He spoke about cadres in the North Zone and accused them of being traitors. He also talked about the living condition of the people, and he meant that in our cooperatives, he wanted to find out which cadres actually forced the people to consume thin gruel. He also spoke about private plantation of vegetable at our house, and that there was no prohibition for people to consume whatever vegetable that we planted. And he said those cadres who were arrested because they betrayed Angka and betrayed the revolution. And he said he wanted the people to eat food at our content and filled our stomach. But to us, we understood that it was a lie. And when he spoke about anyone who, or any chief who prohibited us from consuming the vegetable that we planted, actually we were very happy to hear that. And in fact, his real purpose was for us to report to him about those chiefs who banned us from eating vegetable that we planted. And actually, during the meeting, he also announced that if any chief or anyone in charge of the kitchen did not give us enough food to eat, then we should make a complaint to him. At the end of the meeting, 3 people actually came up to him to complain. That is to Kan's place in PMG Kong, and they complained about unit chiefs who banned them from consuming their vegetable that they planted. Actually, they went at around 9 o'clock, and they returned at around 10:30 or 11. And upon their arrival at their respective houses, an Oscar actually came to their houses and arrested them and sent them to Old Dragoon Pagoda. And that's what I know about the strategy and Jews during the meeting and while he was there.
Thank you. I want to follow up on the location of this meeting. You've indicated that it took place at Wat Ochakun. I want to read to you an excerpt from an interview of a person you have identified as a chief of the Pim Chikong militia. I won't name him by name, Your Honors. It's 2 TCW 883. The interview is E39346, E3/9346, Khmer ERN 00235-016, English 00235-508, and French 00283-948. And he describes also a meeting held by the new sector secretary. This is what he said, quote, "In early 1977, they held a meeting at the Pim Stadium. All the villagers had to attend. The sector committee secretary On and the district committee secretary Khan convened the meeting and told us to work hard for Angkar. Then they said that there were enemies among the people. After that meeting, the arrests accelerated both day and night," end of quote. This witness describes a meeting as taking place at Pim Stadium. Can you tell us what Pim Stadium was and where it was located?
At the Pim Stadium, or Pim Chikong Stadium, and it was located opposite the Pim Chikong school, and I did not attend that meeting. What I told you was from the what I knew and heard at the meeting that was held at Old Tribunal Pagoda. Of course, I was at Sambumi, and we were prohibited from crossing to another commune. Even I had some relatives living in PMT Kong commune, but I could not make any contact with them at all. We were prohibited from doing so. So, in brief, I did not know about the meeting that was held at that stadium. And if there were a meeting where the instructions for the arrest had to be carried out through the announcement, it's likely that we, the ordinary villagers, would not be allowed to attend such meeting.
And so the meeting at Wat Ochakun, where Sector Secretary An spoke, can you tell us, was this during the period that Ochakun was used as a security office? And can you be specific as to where exactly in the area of Wat Ochakun the meeting was held?
The meeting that was held at the Old Tribunal Pagoda was actually held right inside the temple. At that time, there were many trees inside the compound, and the meeting took place at the temple that is towards the west side of the pagoda's compound.
I'm going to turn now to another subject, Mr. President. Do you remember a militia unit in your district that was called the Longsword?
President interrupts. Thank you, Deputy Co-Prosecutor. Since now you switch to a new subject, let me take a short break. We take a break now and return at 10:30. And court officer, please assist the witness during the break time, and invite him back into the courtroom at 10:30.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ